Catus, Maximus here. Here talking about the PowerTorque versus the Harbor Freight Icon super long 24-inch extensions. I had actually ordered this Icon set. It was a set that also included a 12-inch and an 18-inch quarter-inch drive, and it was 40 bucks. And I felt pretty disappointed because when I got this extension, it's one of these ones that has been neck down or turned down. We can really see that, and that just wasn't obvious on the photos. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked up the Icons. And the reason that's an issue is because on these long extensions, surprisingly enough, it used to be a standard just with all tool manufacturers for many, many decades throughout the 20th century to have neck downs on the extensions. They were never really made to take the same amount of torque as they socket right on a ratchet or a breaker bar. But of course, a lot of people didn't like that. They wanted extensions that took a lot of torque, so they stopped doing that. So it's kind of interesting to see that Harbor Freight Icon has started doing that. And the reason it is a big issue is this turns it into a big spring, makes it kind of like a rubber band. There's quite a bit of twist, which is an issue on long extensions, because if you have not much space to use your ratchet, then the twist may use up all the swing space that you have, and you may not even be able to get your ratchet to actually ratchet. And so when I received these, I felt that I had been chinsed, so I was like, you know what, we'll go see what O'Reilly's has. And PowerTorque actually has a 24-inch extension. It was only 15 bucks, and it's full diameter, and I really noticed it has a lot less springiness to it. And so I'll end up just keeping the Icon as either a lighter duty, or maybe find a friend to pawn it off for 4 bucks. I was after these other two extensions because I already had I had various other sub 12-inch ones, but then I had this Craftsman 14-inch, so it kind of allowed me to set build. As we can see, we have now more increments. So, you know, I'll take the hit, but I sure was disappointed. The one thing I can say about the Icon is somehow I got the magical set. When you get these long extensions, it's nearly impossible for them to be perfectly straight. But this Icon is just about perfectly straight. Even this PowerTorque, which is actually really good, we can see that it has just a slight bend in it, because when we roll it, it wants to roll back. And that's how you really test these extensions with the Icon. Just no matter where we roll it, it just stays in the same spot. It is surprisingly straight. With the PowerTorque, it is definitely the one I'm going to recommend just because it has a nice finish, nice and thick. Performance Tool also has some long extensions at O'Reilly's, but they look really terrible. But I was putting these together here and noticing that there's a slight difference in length, and I was like, oh no, what's going on here? And so as I was measuring up this PowerTorque here, I was finding that if we can get this, that it's about 23 and 5/8. And so if you're going to sell me a 24-inch extension, it'd be sure nice that it was actually 24 inches. And so I'm getting chintz left and right. Just can't catch a break. And let me talking about the difference in diameter. We can see that here just by looking at it. We can see that the PowerTorque's just a little bit thicker. Really, these are Taiwanese made. I'm sure this is grades of chrome vanadium steel are basically near identical. PowerTorque does have some nice tools. This is actually a nice example here, as we can see that the Icon roll stamping just wasn't super great, but it seems on the PowerTorque they always really make sure to have a nice solid roll stamp on that so the markings are clear. The other thing I'll mention is this is a more of a feel-good knurling on the Icon. It's just not deep enough to really give you much grip, especially after it gets dirty or if you have oily or greasy hands. Where the PowerTorque, the knurling could be better on it, but it is certainly an upgrade from the Icon. This is at least knurling that you can get enough of a grip on. Talking about diameters here, if we measure the Icon, whoop, there we go. We get about 410 thousandths there, and that's getting right about 10.5 millimeters. Now, if we measure the PowerTorque, we're getting 471, so 60 thousandths more. That's almost a 1/16 of an inch increase. Or we can see it's just a little over 12 millimeters. And so you'd say, well, if we calculate out that percentage, the 10.5 millimeters versus 12 millimeters, that's about a 14% increase. You say, Catus, well, that's not such a big deal. You know, that's only 14% stronger. But we're working with a cylinder here, and so that means we're working with a magical number called pi. And so increasing the diameter just by 14% actually nets you almost 25% increase in strength. Let's get this thing turned on. Oh, I can't even see it. Now you can see it a little better. We're going to go ahead and put on the icon first here. We can see the icon weighs 430 grams. So even though this PowerTorque is actually 3/8 of an inch shorter than the icon and only has 14% more diameter, it is just 535 grams. So we're getting 25% more steel with just a 15% increase in diameter. I should mention that the one thing kind of going for the icon is it does have a pretty strong detent. Plenty strong. And I think the PowerTorque detent is just fine, but maybe not quite as stiff. But let me show you how much they twist in practice. Here we are, obviously, when we have the socket attached to this PowerTorque 18-inch ratchet, which has a massively thick handle. It's pretty obvious. We get it on there with just a socket. It's very solid, very connected. This isn't, I'm going to turn the fastener and just not get any, basically no perceptible spring action. Just feels like one solid piece of material. Here we are. I've got the icon set up. Same ratchet. Everything's the same. It's just now we're using an icon extension. And all of this right here, this is all rubber banding. This is a torsion spring. I have to pull it. So there's the play. There's the end of the play. I'm pulling, 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 pulling. Now the fastener just turned. I mean, all of this is simply spring loading. It's really annoying through an extension. So now, if we go with the other one, the PowerTorque, I should say, it's surprising that 25% difference in material is a big difference. So there's the play. Just turn the fastener. So once again, there's the tension, and then this is the spring. And it turns right there. So tension, turns. Quite a bit of a difference. I mean, it feels like it's 50% stronger. So anyway, that's the review and comparison. Here is the fact that Harbor Freight, I would pay $25 to Harbor Freight for a couple for these Icon 18 and 12-inch, 1/4-inch drive extensions. But this 3/8 is really waste. Even if it's decent finish and surprisingly straight, it's just, I can't believe they would neck down the longest one where it needs to be the thickest just to save some material. And that should show you they're saving 25% of the mass in the material by doing that. And that does start adding up to real cost savings, but it just sucks because it kind of makes the extension just too springy, and it gets real annoying when you're trying to work on something and then you've got a bunch of ratchet swing that's all just taking up spring tension. And so surprisingly enough, that 25% extra material on the PowerTorque and the fact that it is 3/8 of an inch shorter really feels like it is just way more rigid. And just because you can go pick it up for $15 and warranty just as easy as any icon tool, it definitely is going to win the battle against Harbor Freight in this type of situation. And I kind of think Harbor Freight really screwed up here with this, with the way they have this extension set, because the 1/4 inches are fine, but the 3/8 just, no thanks. That one, this is going to be better than like AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts tools, but when the O'Reilly's parts store has better and stronger tools than Harbor Freight's premium brand, Harbor Freight once again needs to get into check. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing and commenting on the Catus Maximus channel, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.